Welcome back to my channel. We're going to be doing my September TBR wrap up. We're going to be talking about the books that I was supposed to read, the books that I did end up reading. So let's go ahead and get into that. So the first book is Night Circus, and I did read this one and I gave it a 4-star. I feel like the details in the book weren't like super overwhelming to where it got boring. They were just enough to like play like the whole scene going on in your head and give you like a good visual on what's going on. I like the way that we followed different characters in this book because I thought we would just be following the two main characters, but we followed different ones and they all tied in together. So yeah, it was definitely a 4-star for me. Next we have The Godparent Trap. I did not read this one this month. I really wanted to, I just did not get to it. Next we have Love in the Time of Serial Killers. This one I also did not get to read. I might try and read it this month just because it's October, so it would go with the theme. Next we have the Heartstopper series, and I did read this whole series. Volume 1 I gave a 3.5. It was definitely like a good first book to get you familiar with the characters and set up for the storyline. Volume 2 I gave a 4.5. I enjoyed watching the characters develop and how they navigated like their relationship and how to go about like telling their friends about it. I was waiting the whole book for Nick to punch Harry, and when he finally did, it was so satisfying. So this one was a 4.5 for me. Volume 3 was a 3-star. I thought it was cute, and obviously this is a YA book, so it's geared towards younger audiences. So it's about like a lot of things, you know, you would do in high school, like, oh, we went on a school trip and we stayed in a hotel, so we all like had a party and like all this fun stuff. So I wasn't too entertained by it, but it was still a good read. Heartstopper Volume 4, I gave a 4.5. This one was actually my favorite out of all of the books. This one touched a lot on like mental health, eating disorders, the stereotype that like men can't have mental health problems. It also talked about like how to go about getting help and stuff. So I just thought that this was like a really good book, especially if it's geared towards like younger audiences, if they're going through something like this, or if, you know, they have a friend, a family member. I felt like the way they handled the topic in this book was really well, and I feel like this could probably be helpful to someone if they're reading it. I also think I really like got invested in the characters in this book. Like I did like Charlie in the other books. Nick, I was just like, oh yeah, cool, like whatever. But like in this book I was like, oh my god, they're so cute. So this was definitely my favorite out of the whole series. I will be reading Volume 5 when it comes out in December, I think. The next book is Mr. Wrong Number, and I did not read it. This month was not the month that I would be reading my first Lynn Painter book, but eventually I will. September just was not the month. I Kissed Sarah Wheeler. I did not read this book. I'm gonna be quite honest, out of all the books that we've gone over so far, this was like the lowest on my like priority. I just wasn't in the mood for this type of book. It didn't sound interesting to me this month. Lastly, we have Birds of California. If you watched my September TBR video, I'm always talking about how when I want to read this book or when it's like on my TBR, I can never find it. I don't know where it goes, but I finally found it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it. I was gonna try and read it in my 24-hour reading vlog in September, but I read 2 different books and got halfway through another, so this didn't make it. I have 2 books that I read this month that weren't on the TBR, but I started them in August and I finished them in September. So we have Covet by Tracy Wolff, and this is the 3rd book in the Crush series. I gave this one a 4-star. This one's really good. I'm excited to read the 4th book just because of where this one left off. I feel like I'm excited to see how they take on like their next task. This could have been a 5-star for me if, listen, sometimes the main character Grace annoys me for some reason, but this time she annoyed me because she's made it to Hudson and she's over here like talking about how she's in love with him and blah blah blah. But then she's like, oh, but I can't wait to break the mating bond and get back with Jackson. And I'm like, what? So I'm just like, what the hell? Like, do you like him? Do you not? Personally, I like Hudson more than I like Jackson. So yeah, that's the only reason this wasn't a 5-star for me, which is probably a dumb reason not to give a book 5 stars, but it's just gonna have to be a 4-star. Also, correction, I was looking at my Goodreads and you can't put like 0.5s or anything on there. So I use Storygraph if I'm gonna like put a book as like a 4.5, 3.5, blah, blah, blah. So on Goodreads it says 4, but on my Storygraph it's 4.5. So this was a 4.5. The last book we read is Killers of a Certain Age. Killers of a Certain Age got a 2.5. It's not that the book was bad. It's just that it wasn't what I expected I was going to be reading. Like, whenever a book's advertised to me a certain way and it's not like what I was thinking based off advertisement, it kind of annoys me. Like, this was giving Thursday Murder Club vibes, and I thought I was gonna watch them go on like an assassin mission, which, I mean, you do, but not in the way that I thought we were gonna get there. And then I don't know how I feel about like the flashbacks to like their younger selves. Like, in some scenarios I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, this is necessary, but other times I'm like, can we get on with the story? Do we really need to be going back into the past? Like, do I really need this background information? I think the end was pretty good. I feel like there were times where I was confused in regards to like characters and how the organization that they work for works, because like they work for this organization, they're assassins. This is how like they're like how they decide who's gonna be assassinated. There's like 3 different like parts of the organization, and I feel like it was hard to keep track of who did what. As far as the characters, our main character, we had 4, but like our main character was Billy, and like she was easy to get down, but the other 3, I feel like I had a hard time distinguishing, and maybe that's just me that had a hard time. Like Billy and Mary Alice, I feel like I could like distinguish, but Helen and Natalie, I think her name was, I couldn't tell you the difference. I couldn't tell you who's who. So yeah, that's why this is a 2.5 for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. That's going to be the end of my September wrap up. I'll go ahead and link my October TBR. I'll either put it in like the little flags up here or somewhere in the description if you want to go see what I'm going to be reading this month in October. If you want to see more book content like this, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. I post videos every Friday, but otherwise I will see you guys next Friday.